This is Christy Strauss, Broker Sales Manager at Insurance Advisors Direct, and I'm here with Kevin Cox of HAP, and Kevin's going to spend some time going into the telephonic enrollment feature. So Kevin, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Christy. Good afternoon, everybody. I do want to thank Insurance Advisors Direct for allowing HAP to partner with you to present this information. We know it's difficult times for everybody in every industry, so we just wanted to take a few minutes to go over some of the telephonic options that are available to you, as well as some of the things that you need to keep in mind if you are doing telephonic marketing or selling or enrollments, so that way you are compliant. With that being said, I just want to run through a few things that we'll be discussing. We're going to talk about marketing through telephonic contact, what you can and what you cannot do. We'll also talk about the CMS telephonic enrollment guidelines. So CMS is very clear on what you can and cannot do there as well. You'll see that it's going to be some hurdles that might be in the way, but just remember that this is hopefully temporary, and we'll all be able to get back out into the field and be able to meet with these prospective clients or your existing clients and assist them with their needs. And then at the end, as Christy mentioned, I wanted to touch briefly on our enrollment tool platform, which we use as Ascend. This is a tool that agents have to request access to. So if you do not have access to the Ascend enrollment platform and you would like it, you can always reach out to Christy and she can make the request for you, or you can reach out to myself directly. So moving through, as we talk about marketing through telephonic contact. So I'm seeing more and more things get canceled as the days progress, whether it's marketing at food banks or Medicare 101 seminars, various things that agents do to try to grow their business outside of the annual election period. Based on this current circumstances that we're facing, a lot of those things are having to be canceled or postponed. So it kind of takes you back to the drawing board about what you can and can't do, or what is going to be your new marketing plan to be able to continue to grow your business. So I just wanted to remind you on a couple things that you can and cannot do when it comes to marketing through telephonic. So obviously you can continue to do your mailers and some other pieces, but if you're specifically looking at telephonic marketing, there's things that you want to keep in mind, and that's really what I want to address with you here in this section. So plans and plan sponsors and their agents and brokers may not make unsolicited telephone calls to prospective enrollees. However, you are permitted to contact your current enrollees or clients to discuss plan business, but you cannot market prior to October 1st under the pretense of plan business. So I want to make sure that this information is pulled directly from the CMS guidelines, and when they put that statement in there at the end that says you cannot market prior to October 1 under the pretense of plan business, keep in mind that is specific to AEP, that sentence. So what they're saying is you know, us as health plans, we roll out all of this information to you prior to 10/1. We get you certified, so you have the sales kits and so forth. That's just saying you couldn't discuss it before 10/1. However, let's look at things that you can do throughout the rest of the year if you are making telephonic contact to your clients. So you can call your current clients, including those that are in non-Medicare products, to discuss this plan business. You can call beneficiaries who submit enrollment applications to conduct business related to the enrollment as well. So there are going to be times where you might mail out an application to have your client fill it out and they send it back to you. It is okay to follow up with that client and you to be able to outreach to them to get some additional questions answered or maybe get information that was missed. You can also call individuals who have given permission for a plan or a sales agent to contact them. So keep in mind, permission applies only to the entity from which the individual requested contact and for the duration of the topic of that transaction. So if you were to happen to do a seminar and they filled out a permission to contact form, it would pertain to whatever that seminar presentation was about. So you couldn't use that permission to contact card to go then and market other things or other items. Obviously, you're also able to return phone calls or messages from individuals or enrollees, as these are not considered unsolicited contacts. So let's take a look at some of the things that you cannot do or that CMS prohibits. So CMS does not allow unsolicited calls about other business as means of generating leads for Medicare plans. You cannot no calls based on referrals. So you might meet with your neighbor down the street based on a conversation that you had, and you might enroll them and they're happy with your service and they refer you to their sister. You can't generate the outreach to the sister. The sister would have to get the business card from your client, and the sister would have to call you. So as a reminder, referral-based business would need to be coming from the client. You cannot be reaching out to the referrals. Calls to market plans or products to former enrollees who have disenrolled, or to current enrollees who are in the process of voluntarily disenrolling. So there are clients that sometimes slip through the cracks, that maybe move out of your book of business because maybe another agent met with them and showed them something, or maybe they called in off the telephone or called in off the TV and enrolled over the phone with somebody. Unfortunately, when that happens, if they are disenrolled or they left you, you would not be able to market plans or products to those folks. You are able to call, and I think there's some information here in regards to doing a disenrollment type survey. So you would be able to reach out to them and just say, I see you're disenrolling. Is there anything that I did wrong, or is there something that I'm missing? That's totally fine, but not in the context of soliciting or trying to write new business. You cannot call beneficiaries who submit enrollment applications to conduct business related to the enrollment. I'm sorry, I feel like I left a couple things in here, Christy, and I apologize. The slide needs to be updated. So as a little disclaimer here, we put this presentation together at the last minute as Christy reached out to me. So this is fresh information, but we'll get the PowerPoint updated before it gets distributed to all of you. But I just want to make sure I don't miss some of the things that you cannot do. Nope, so those are the main things. So just remember that you cannot do unsolicited calls about other business as a means of generating leads for Medicare plans. You cannot call based on referrals. The referral needs to call you. And if a client is in the process of disenrolling, or have you lost that enrollment, you cannot reach out to them and market new plans. So let's move through here and let's go over the telephonic enrollment guidelines. So CMS is pretty straightforward on telephonic enrollments. You are probably seeing other carriers as well trying to come up with business plans to accommodate what we're going through, because really there's one main component that has to be in place in order for you to do a telephonic enrollment, and you'll see that it is required that the call is recorded. So it's not that it can't be done, because you can do telephonic sales. There are just certain things that you have to do in order to be able to be compliant, because if we were ever to come back to you as the agent or broker and ask you for information, and let's say you said, oh, I did this enrollment over the phone, one of the things we would ask for is a copy of the recording of the call. So let's take a look at some of the guidelines that are required to be met by CMS in order to be able to do telephonic sales. The first one is enrollment requests from individuals with whom the organization does not have an existing business relationship may be accepted only during an incoming or an inbound telephonic call from a beneficiary. So it is prohibited to do outbound telephonic enrollment. So as a reminder, you might be returning a call from a voicemail that was left to you to reach back out to the beneficiary. That is totally fine. But if that client does want to enroll, it is required by CMS regulations that the call gets disconnected and that beneficiary calls into you, and then you can take the enrollment. So as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, telephonic enrollment is not the easiest thing to do. It can be done, but there are certain things that you want to make sure that you do correctly so that way you are compliant. For all telephonic enrollment requests, the MA organization must ensure that the telephonic enrollment request is effectuated entirely by the beneficiary or his or her authorized representative. Individuals must be advised that they are completing an enrollment request. So at some point in your sales presentation, on that call, you want to make sure that you are very clear that you are moving forward with an enrollment. So it could be a simple language or a simple conversation that says, Mrs. Smith, do you agree to complete an enrollment into this Medicare Advantage plan? So as long as you have something that's advising that beneficiary that they're enrolling and they're acknowledging it, you are being compliant. Each telephonic enrollment request must be recorded, and that includes a statement of the individual's agreement to be recorded, all the required elements necessary to complete the enrollment, and the verbal attestation of the intent to enroll. So when they're talking about all of the necessary elements, they're talking about the Medicare claim number, their Part A, their Part B effective date, their demographic information, all of that stuff that you're used to putting in an application would be required to complete that enrollment. So I want to mention too, when I talk about recording, not a lot of agents have the technology or the capability to do enrollment, but I've been doing a little research on my own as I'm trying to help agents navigate through what we're going through and trying to assist agents to continue to write their business and marketing plans and moving forward. And I know that Google Voice is an option that can be used where it does allow you to record calls. It's pretty easy to set up, as I set one up today. It's very simple, but as a reminder, the only way that you can record the call is if it's an inbound call, and then there's a feature through Google Voice that you would press that has an automated voice that comes in and says, this call is now being recorded. So there's two things that you are satisfying there if you use Google Voice to do your telephonic enrollments. One, it's requiring you to take an inbound call to be able to do the enrollment, because in order to record a call through Google Voice, it has to be inbound. And then the second thing is they're using that technology that's chiming in and says, you are now on a recorded line. That is allowing you to meet the requirement that says you are communicating that this call is recorded to the beneficiary. If you have any questions on this, I'm sure IAD can assist you with some of the other ones that are out there, the other platforms, but just know this is a requirement that is required. Including a tracking mechanism to provide the individuals with evidence that the telephonic enrollment was requested and was received. So that is just a simple confirmation number. Or you could even save a copy of that application and you can send it to them. So some sort of receipt or some sort of confirmation needs to be provided to that beneficiary when you're doing a telephonic enrollment so that they know that that enrollment was completed. And then a notice of acknowledgement and other required information must be provided to the individual. So I'll go over here on the next slide what those things are that you should be providing to the beneficiary, whether it's sticking it in the mail and mailing it to them or emailing it to them based on CMS guidelines. So moving through, and that's where I'm here, is there's a couple of things that you want to keep in mind. This is not new, but this is just as a reminder, an FYI. Scope of appointments are always required, whether it's an in-person or telephonic enrollment, and that's going to be required if you're discussing the Medicare Advantage or the Medicare prescription drug plans through HAP. The other thing that is required, and this goes back to the other slide, is that you are required to review the summary of benefits and the current star ratings sheets. So my suggestion to you is that if you are doing telephonic sales and you can't meet with the person for whatever reason, because maybe they're at risk of contracting COVID-19 or they're just not comfortable for whatever reason, have copies of the star ranking for the carriers that you have in the summary of benefits and find a way to get that to the beneficiary. So whether it's via email, because they're PDF documents to send that way, or it could be something that you place in the mail and send to the client and ask them once they get that to give you a call to make sure that you are compliant and you are getting the required information to that client. And then we also at HAP require that you obtain a signed application. So it is very important that you do have a signature on the application for the simple fact that if you were ever to come back and get audited, or us as the health plan was ever to come back and ask for a copy, that you have all of the proper documentation to be able to meet the needs of the compliance for both the health plan as well as CMS. So let's take a look here at HAP's enrollment tool. So most of you or some of you might have access to this. This is what we call Ascend. We're not the only carrier in Michigan that uses this. Aetna also uses this platform, but you can also just go directly to hap.org and do enrollments that way. So you can actually have our enrollment tool, which is an agent broker type tool that allows you to do applications, and it has a bunch of other features that I'm going to show you here in a minute. Or you can just go to our website and you can do an enrollment that way. Either way is fine. Either way is acceptable. However, if you do want access to Ascend after we go through some of the functionality of this tool and how it works, I will, like as I mentioned, you can always reach out to Christy and we can get you access, or you can reach out to myself directly and we'll make sure that you get access to this tool. But what some of the nice key features are is one, text or email scope of appointment. So as I mentioned on the last few slides, if you're doing telephonic enrollments, you're still going to need a scope of appointment. In this tool, it gives you the ability to text your client the scope of appointment, or you can email it to them, and then it houses it back there for you to be able to view at a later date or to produce at a later date if it is requested. It allows you to view their current LIS status. So if your client does get some sort of LIS subsidy, and you go through the enrollment tool and you enter in all of their information, it will verify what their current LIS subsidy is, and it also reflects possibly on the premium or on the prescription drug cost as well. You can view previous enrollments in the tool. You can view plan documents and other important resources. And then you also have access to a Pearl, excuse me, which will allow you to send out an enrollment link to your clients so that they can do the enrollment themselves. And if they were to do that, it does give you credit as the agent of record, as well as obviously getting compensation for the sale. So let's go into the Ascend tool because I want to show you some of the functionality. And then Christy, I'm going to hope that you can help me here and make sure that this is showing on their screen. Are you able to allow me access to share my screen?
I believe so, but let me just.
Okay.
Are you
I
hitting
just want to
that
give
link?
some live. Oh, you know what? Something did pop up here. I am not seeing anything, but let me see. Anything else popped up? I don't see anything, but let's see here. Oh, there's an option that's allowing me to, if I press share my screen, it says there's content playing. Are you sure you want to stop the current content to play the new one? I'm going to hit yes. And let's see. Okay, it looks like it's now going to my screen. And I'm just going to pull this up. Okay. All right, sorry for the quick delay here, but I just wanted to show you the Ascend platform and some of the tools and functionality that's behind there, because I think you will find it helpful, especially during this time when you are having to possibly meet with clients via the telephone and so forth. So one of the things that I mentioned to you is that you would be able to text or email a scope of appointment. So when you log into this tool, this is going to be the home screen, and this is what you're going to see. It's going to ask you what you would like to do today. It says you can email, text the scope of appointment, find an enrollment. You can look at appointments back here. So there is a calendar back here that you would be able to utilize if you wanted to schedule your appointments and kind of use as your daily calendar. There is, unfortunately, you see recordings, but that is a functionality that we don't have access to right now. So you would not be able to use the recording function. You have the resource function here. So if you scroll down here, there is resources back here. So you'll be able to see the 2020 Medicare Advantage information, the DSNP. You look at the West Michigan information, HAP contact list, the Healthy Living brochure. So there's other PDF documents back here that you have access to right at your fingertips. But let's go back quickly to the scope of appointment because I kind of want to show you how this would work. So if you click on the email or text the scope of appointment, you're just going to click, it's going to bring up the select a lead. Because you don't have an account or a lead generated in here, you're just going to want to select add one. And you're going to see it's going to ask you for all this information. At some point, you may want to put it in there because it's going to make your life easier, but it's not required to do a scope of appointment. So I'm going to give you an example of what is required to at least get the scope of appointment out of the way. I'm going to put the name of my client, so I'm just going to use myself as an example. I'm going to skip the date of birth. I'm going to skip the gender. I'm going to put the phone number because I'm going to text this. So you do have the ability to email it, or text it, I'm going to use my phone number so that way I can text it to myself. And then I'll show you what a copy of this will look like when it makes it to your client. I'm going to leave all of this other stuff blank because it's not necessarily necessary to be able to use this feature. I believe it does ask for the zip code, so I'm just going to throw a zip code in here. And then, so as a reminder, I put the name, the telephone number, and the zip code. And then I hit save. And then it's going to ask you scope of appointment. Which kind of scope of appointment do you want to create? And we're doing an electronic form. And then you're going to select the HAP form. And then this is where you're going to actually see what the scope of appointment looks like. So what are you going to be discussing with your client? HAP doesn't have a standalone PDP, but if you happen to be doing one of our med stops or another in a PDP plan, obviously you have the access to use this scope of appointment as it is universal. You have the Medicare Advantage plans. And then as you scroll down, it is going to request a signature date. So you are going to want to put, let's just say today's date, if that's the day you're sending it over to your client. It's going to have all of the information in here. So you see my name twice because I'm the agent, and then I use myself as the beneficiary information. But typically that would pull up the beneficiary info. And then as you can see, there's stars or asterisks next to things that are required. So I'm just going to put 123 Main Street as an example. I'll put the city as Troy, or actually that's Livonia zip code, so I'm going to use Livonia to make sure we stay compliant here, and then the county. So that is Wayne County. So this is the information that's required to put in here, as well as the date for yourself to sign as the agent. So you'll put that in there. And then you, at the bottom here is where you'll select. Do you want to email this or do you want to text it? I'm going to put text because I only put my phone number in here. I didn't add an email address. So I will hit submit. And then it says success. Scope of appointment has been saved. And then on my phone, I just got an email, or I just got a text message with a link. So when a client gets the text message, they'll click the link, they open it up, and they just acknowledge it, saying yes or no, I reviewed and agreed to these terms or understand this. So if they hit yes, and I'm going to open it and hit yes, so that way it makes its way back into this Ascend tool so I can show you where you can find it at a later date. Give me a second here. And then it says scope of appointment is approved. So once it got opened and once the person or the beneficiary selects yes, they do get a confirmation or they do get a notice that the appointment was approved. So let's do this. I'm just going to close this down and I'm going to show you where you're going to be able to find this. So you go into here, and this was the lead. You can see this is what the scope of appointment looks like. So I did approve this, so it doesn't show that it's approved, but if you go back out and you go back in, it would show that. But this is housed in here, and this is the information. So you can do an electronic scope of appointment by either text or email. And that should help you alleviate some of the challenges that you're running into if you're not able to go out into the field right now. The other thing that I just wanted to mention to you as we go through this, and I'm going to jump off of here for 1 second, is you can find enrollments. So if you do enrollments through this platform, you're able to go in here and you're able to look up those enrollments. It's not going to pull up anything for me because I don't have any enrollments in here. But if you ever had to go back in and pull out an application, you'd be able to do so. And those are the main features that are behind the whole agent platform or agent self-serve type tab here that you can use. So the other thing that I wanted to show you was the Pearl link. And I just want to get to the right page here. So give me just 1 second. So if you have access to our enrollment, this is, so one thing I want to mention to you, and let me just go back to this Ascend tool. If you don't have access and you request access, you're going to get an email with instructions. One of the things you have to do is you have to download an app. So this functionality that you see right here is an app type functionality that you will get instructions to do that you would download that app. Other agents sometimes just go to a web browser and they'll enter this information in. As you can see, this is defaulted to Dustin's, but I'm going to sign in under my name so that way you can kind of see, because I want to show you where you can find the Pearl link if you wanted to send a link to your client to do the enrollment themselves, but you would be getting credit for the sale. So when you log in here, this is very similar to if you were just to go to hap.org and click enroll, okay? But you're in a logged in version of this. So at the very top here, do you see where it says Agent Credit Pearl? You can copy this link and you could send this to a client and they can go and do the enrollment themselves, or you could kind of walk them through it. Okay, now what page are you on? Okay, this is what you want to enter here. And they would be doing the enrollment themselves, but you would be getting credit as the agent. So some agents like to do this where they might do like, let's say, a Facebook advertisement that says, you know, check out HAP's plans or however it may be, whatever's compliant, and they'll put this link in there. So that way if somebody randomly clicks on the link and they do an enrollment and it goes through, you become the agent of record, you get paid for that sale. So that's another way where you can electronically service your clients or have the ability to, do an enrollment that way as well. So those are the main things that I wanted to share with you today. I'm going to go back to the presentation's off the screen now, but those are the main things that I wanted to share with you. As I mentioned, I wanted to thank Christy for putting this together last minute. So I was working this weekend on this presentation. I was working a little bit today to try to get some information to you. I'm sure you're going to see other carriers rolling stuff out because we are really trying to make sure that we're meeting the beneficiaries' needs as well as our agents' needs to serve these clients, but also remain compliant. So as we know, because the federal government is involved, we have our rules and regulations that we have to follow until we hear otherwise. This is the resources that we have, and this is what we can offer to you to be able to do telephonic sales and enrollments if this is an option that you need to use if you can't go and see your clients face-to-face. If you don't have access to the Ascend enrollment tool, keep in mind, as I mentioned earlier, you can reach out to Christy. She can reach out to us as the health plan and get that information set up for you, or you can reach out to myself directly and I'll be able to work through that with you. But as I mentioned, I just want to say thank you again for the time and the opportunity to be able to share this information with you. We will all get through this together. We appreciate your partnership and your continued support. If you have any questions on this presentation or anything else, feel free to reach out to me, but I will flip it back over to Christy if she wants to close this out. Thank you.
Thank you again, Kevin, and thank you all for your time today. You can reach me at the office at area code 248-946-4640, extension 108. Thanks again, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you.